Welcome to the American Indian Vocational Rehabilitation Services pre-application webinar. My name is Adrian Rodriguez, one of the program officers for the American Indian Vocational Rehabilitation Services AIVRS program. This pre-recorded informational webinar is designed to provide technical assistance to interested applicants for grants under the Rehabilitation Services Administration's RSA AIVRS program competition under assisted listing number ALN 84.250P. Specifically, this webinar is designed to highlight pertinent information from the Notice Inviting Applications NIA to assist the applicant's understanding of this competition. The recording is designed to supplement the relevant material associated with the competition for which you are applying. Please note that the competition will contain an application kit that will provide additional information about the program. We invite all prospective applicants to access this recording, along with their teams responsible for developing program and financial components of the application. Slide 2, Presentation Overview. This is an on-demand recording to help prepare applicants for the AIVRS 84.250P grant competition in the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services, OSER's Rehabilitation Service Administration, RSA office. It will include a brief overview of what is contained in the entire application kit, a more detailed review of the NIA, and additional information and resources. Slide 3, Understanding the Application Kit. You'll have a Dear Applicant letter, Notice Inviting Applications, NIA, for new awards, selection criteria for applicants, special application requirements, program statute and regulations, application transmittal instructions, application abstract instructions, application forms, important notices and information, and additional information. Slide 4, An overview of NIA, the purpose. The purpose of the AIVRS program is to provide vocational rehabilitation VR services, including culturally appropriate services, to American Indians with disabilities who reside on or near federal or state reservations, consistent with such eligible individual strengths, resources, priorities, concerns, abilities, capabilities, interests, and informed choice so that such individual may prepare for and engage in high-quality employment that will increase opportunities for economic self-sufficiency. Slide 5, An overview of NIA, competitive preference priority. In making new awards under this program, RSA gives priority for applications for the continuation of programs that have been previously funded under the AIVRS program. An additional 5 points are awarded to an application that meets this priority. Slide 6, Overview of NIA award information. Type of award, discretionary grants. Estimated available funds, $4,369,250 for federal fiscal year 2022. Estimated number of awards, 8. Project period, up to 60 months. Contingent upon the availability of funds and the quality of applications, we may make additional awards in federal fiscal year 2022 from the list of unfunded applications from this competition. The Department is not bound by any estimates in this notice. Slide 7. Overview of NIA eligibility information. Applications may be made only by Indian tribes and consortia of those Indian tribes located on federal and state reservations. The definition of Indian tribe in Section 719B of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, as amended, is any federal or state Indian tribe, band, rancheria, pueblo, colony, or community, including any Alaskan Native village or regional village corporation as defined in or established pursuant to the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, and a tribal organization as defined in Section 4.1 of the Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act in 25 USC 450b1. Reservation is defined in 34 CFR 371.6 as a federal or state Indian reservation, public domain Indian allotment, former Indian reservation in Oklahoma, land held by incorporated Native groups, regional corporations, and village corporations under the provision of the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, or a defined area of land recognized by a state or the federal government where there is a concentration of tribal members and on which the tribal government is providing structured activities and services. The applicant for an AIVRS grant must be 1. The governing body of an Indian tribe, either on behalf of the Indian tribe or on behalf of the consortium of the Indian tribes, or 2. The tribal organization that a separate legal organization that is not a governing body of an Indian tribe. In order to receive an AIVRS grant, the tribal organization that is not a governing body of an Indian tribe must have one of its functions, the vocational rehabilitation of American Indians with disabilities, and have the approval of the tribe to be served by such organization. If a grant is made to the governing body of an Indian tribe, either on its own or on behalf of a consortium, or to a tribal organization to perform services benefiting more than one Indian tribe, the approval of such Indian tribe shall be a prerequisite to the making of such a grant. Slide 8. Overview of NIA cost share. Cost sharing is the portion of project program costs not borne by the federal government. For the program, refer to the statutorily specified percentage of 10% of the total project cost of the project that must be contributed by a grant applicant in order to be eligible for funding. Any and all cost sharing promised by the grantee in its application must be fully documented and accounted for in the grantee's expenditure records and reports. Applications submitted for funding must include the specific costs or contributions proposed to meet cost share requirement, the source of the cost share, and in the case of in-kind contributions, a description of how the value was determined for the donated or contributed services or goods. To calculate the cost share, divide the total requested federal funds, including indirect costs, by 9. For example, 450,000 divided into 9 is 50,000. Slide 9. An overview of NIA subgrantees. A grantee under this competition may not award subgrantees to entities to directly carry out project activities described in its application. While subgrants are not permitted under 34 CFR 371.42a, grantees are permitted to provide the vocational rehabilitation services by contract or otherwise enter into an agreement with a designated state unit, DSU, a community rehabilitation program, or another agency to assist in the implementation of the tribal vocational rehabilitation program, as long as such arrangement is identified in the application. Slide 10, an overview of the NIA application and submission. For more information on how to submit an application, please refer to our common instructions for applicants to Department of Education Discretionary Grant Programs, published in the Federal Register, available at the link listed, which contains requirements and instructions on how to submit an application. Slide 11, Application Review Information Selection Criteria. The selection criteria for this competition, with the maximum score of 100 points, are as follows. Need for project and significance, 10 points. Quality of the project design, 20 points. Quality of project services, 20 points. Quality of project personnel, 15 points. Adequacy of resources, 10 points. Quality of management plan, 15 points. Quality of project evaluation, 10 points. The selection criteria detail can be found in the NIA. Slide 12. Application review information, review and selection process. We remind potential applicants that in reviewing applications in any discretionary grant competition, the Secretary may consider, under 34 CFR 75.217D3, the past performance of the applicant in carrying out a previous award, such as the applicant's use of funds, achievement of project objectives, and compliance with grant conditions. The Secretary may also consider whether the applicant failed to submit a timely performance report or submitted a report of unacceptable quality. In addition, in making a competitive grant award, the Secretary requires various assurances, including those applicable to federal civil rights laws that prohibit discrimination in programs or activities receiving federal financial assistance from the Department. Slide 13, Application Review Information, Risk and Assessment and Special Conditions. Consistent with 2 CFR 200.205, before awarding grants under this competition, the Department conducts a review of the risks posed by applicants. Under 2 CFR 3474.10, the Secretary may impose specific conditions and, in appropriate circumstances, high-risk conditions on a grant if the applicant or grantee is not financially stable, has a history of unsatisfactory performance, has a financial or other management system that does not meet the standards in 2 CFR Part 200, Subpart D, has not fulfilled the conditions of the prior grant, or is otherwise not responsible. Slide 14, Application Review Information, Special Application Requirements. Applicants for the AIVRS program grant must provide assurances that they will meet the special application requirements stated at 34 CFR and 371.21 A through K in the provided template. Each application will be reviewed by the Department of Education to determine whether the applicant has provided the required assurances. Listed in the application kit are special application requirements at 34 CFR and 371.21 A through K, explanatory notes, and instructions for the content of the required assurance statements. You must provide the assurance statements in a separate section of your application entitled Special Application Requirements. Slide 15, Award Administration Information. Award notices. If your application is successful, we notify your U.S. representative and U.S. senators and send you a grant award notification, GAN, upon obligation. If your application is not evaluated or not selected for funding, we notify you. Administrative and national policy requirements. We identify administrative and national policy requirements in the application package and reference these and other requirements in the applicable regulations section of this notice. We reference the regulations outlining the terms and conditions of an award in the applicable regulations section of this notice and include these and other specific conditions in the GAN. The GAN also incorporates your approved application as part of your binding commitments under the grant. Slide 16, Award Administration Information Reporting. If you apply for a grant under this competition, you must ensure that you have in place the necessary processes and systems to comply with the reporting requirements in 2 CFR Part 170, should you receive funding under the competition. This does not apply if you have an exception under 2 CFR 170.110B. At the end of your project period, you must submit a final performance report, including financial information, as directed by the Secretary. If you receive a multi-year award, you must submit an annual performance report that provides the most current performance and financial expenditure information as directed by the Secretary under 34 CFR 75.118. The Secretary may also require more frequent performance reports under 34 CFR 75.720C. Slide 17, Award Administration Information Performance Measures. Under the Government Performance and Results Act of 1993, GEPRA, the Department has established 4 performance measures for the AIVRS program. A. Of all those exiting the program, the percentage of individuals who leave the program with an employment outcome after receiving services under an Individualized Plan for Employment, IPE. B. 1. The percentage of individuals who leave the program with an employment outcome after receiving services under an IPE. B2, the percentage of individuals who leave the program without an employment outcome after receiving services under an IPE. B3, the percentage of individuals who have not left the program and are continuing to receive services under an IPE. C, the percentage of projects that demonstrate an average annual cost per employment outcome of no more than $35,000. And D, the percentage of projects that demonstrate an average annual cost of services per participant of no more than $10,000. Slide 18, Other Information. Accessible format. Individuals with disabilities can obtain this document and a copy of the application package in an accessible format upon request to the program contact person listed under Further Information Contact. If you use a TDD or a TTY, call the FRS toll-free at 1-800-877-8339. The official version of this document is the document published in the Federal Register. Slide 19, RSA Discretionary Grant Information. This page contains informational recordings and accompanying handouts for applicants interested in applying for discretionary grants funded through the Rehabilitation Service Administration, RSA. Please note that the section on general information for RSA discretionary grant competitions includes 4 recordings and an accompanying handout highlighting pertinent information that generally applies across discretionary grant programs funded through RSA. Slide 20, Reminders. Consult the NIA to review the program authority and applicable regulations for your specific program. The application deadline is 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on the application deadline date. Assistance from the principal office staff will be available until 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the application deadline date. Slide 21, a few more reminders. Register early. Grants.gov may take 5 or more business days to complete. Submit early. Don't wait until the last day to submit your application. Grants.gov will put a date and timestamp on your application and then process it after it is fully uploaded. Verify that submission was accepted. Verify that Grants.gov received your submission on time and that it was validated successfully. Slide 22, Competition Manager Contact. Joy Harris Somerville is the competition manager for this grant competition. Please contact her with any questions. If you use a telecommunications device for the deaf or a text telephone, call the Federal Relay Service. And next, we will take a few minutes to transition to the Q&A portion of this pre-application webinar.